Morning, welcome back to Alright, What's Next? Today, we're going to make a flag. Not one of those flags. We're going to make an easy flag. We're going to turn this 1x12 into one of those. Alright, so the first thing we got to do, we got to process this board down. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to run it through the face planer, get both these sides nice and even because there's a lot of inconsistencies to it. And it'll minimize the amount of sanding we got to do. So let's get the planer up here and make a bunch of freaking noise and sawdust. Alright, you don't have to use a face planer like that. It is an unnecessary step. I just did it because it helps level out the board. Because when you buy this cheap construction grade lumber from your big box hardware store, lumber stores, they're always kind of wavy, inconsistent, thicknesses aren't always the same, and this also helps reduce the amount of sanding you're going to have to do, if you actually have to do really any sanding to it, because it's not going to be a piece of furniture, it's going to be a piece of wall art. So now we've got it milled down. This end down here has got a decent amount of snipe off of it from that face planer, because as it's exiting, the board kind of wants to drop down, so this end gets into the blades a little bit more. This end not so much, because it's easier to feed that in. So what we got to do, we need to cut this into 30-inch pieces. Since we're going to do 30-inch pieces, we don't give a shit that this end has been freaking sniped. It's got the divot taken out of it, because this is an 8-foot board and that's 96 inches. So we start out at 30 inches. We'll rip it down on the miter saw and then we'll start cutting it into the individual strips. So 30. Now this is actually going to be a slightly bigger flag than the one that's on the wall over there. The 30 inches is the same dimensions as my 3D waving flag. I liked that dimension more because I think the flat one that I have on the wall over there is only 27 inches long. I like the 30-inch one. It makes it look more like an actual flag. So let's break this thing down. Now we've got them all cut into 30-inch sections. Now we're going to rip these into 1 1/4 inch strips. That's going to be the dimensions of the stripes that we're going to use. This plan actually calls for a 1x10. I have a 1x12, so we're going to wind up with more strips than we actually need, which is fine because there are some shit spots in this board, like right here. We'll get through here. This will be an unusable section because it'll just break in half once we cut it. There's a few cracks here and there. But that is the perils of buying cheap construction lumber. You just get what you get. You got to sit there for an hour and sort through the friggin' stack of lumber that they've got in there trying to find one goddamn board that's usable. So let's rip this thing into strips. Alright, 13 friggin' strips. I only had to cut up 2 of them chunks to get them, and I got 3 leftovers. Leftovers, you want them because these are going to be put on the back side of it as additional support to keep these things glued together, because right here's one of them unusable pieces for the flags. So the knots already come out of it. But you just got to cut them down to the actual length of how tall the flag is, and then we'll glue and staple these on, and that's what's going to hold the flag together. It's a really quick, simple flag build. You have inconsistencies in your cuts, and you got to pull everything together. This is cheap freaking wood, so pretty much when you start cutting it, it just starts warping because they say it's kiln dried. but it ain't freaking kiln dry. Well, it is, but they don't do it long enough, and there's always a pretty high moisture content to it. So these things always warp like shit. So you'll have to get some clamps. We'll clamp them together. We'll put some wood glue, a little bit of wood glue. You don't want to get too crazy with it, because when you clamp together, you don't want the wood glue squeezing out and getting all over the top, because before we assemble it, we'll already have this pre-stained. All right, so now we'll do just a real quick sand on them, and then we're going to burn them. All right, got a good burn on all of them. So now we need to mark out where our union's going to go. So what I like is I have an assembly jig. I just got a piece of MDF that I put some rails on, and I can just slide them all into place. That way it lines them all up. And it's handy for other projects as well. Get them all pushed up against your fence here. Then they're all lined up, and get your union stencil out. If anybody wants to know, I get these off of eBay. It is from an eBay seller called Stencils by Joanie, Joanie. She doesn't know I'm freaking saying it. Nobody has paid me for this, but I've had several questions on where I acquire these stencils from. And I imagine there's probably other places you get it. That just happens to be where I get mine. They're about 14 and a half bucks per stencil. I've got a whole bunch of these because it was kind of trial and error, trying to figure out exactly which one I wanted for this size of flag. And the overall dimension of this one, it is an 11-inch long by 9 inches. And these are 3/4 inch stars, however they're measured point to point. But yeah, so it's a 9 by 11 stencil. That works perfectly for your 30-inch flag with 1 1/4 inch stripes. The first 7 stripes is going to be where your union is. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The 7th stripe will be the bottom of the blue. So this fits in perfect. Now, if you want to build a flag of a different size, of course, you're going to need a different size stencil. Then it's up to you to figure it out. Because I think I bought 4 stencils before I finally found one that fit perfectly. So it was a little pricey the first couple of tries. All right, so we got a mark here and a mark here. We know exactly where our union is going to go. So this is where you want to make sure everything is pushed into place where it needs to be. We'll connect these 2 lines extremely lightly. Because now we're ready to stain it. And the way you stain this, you can tape this off like I did with this flag, but that's not how we're going to do this, because we're going to do all the staining in one step. So we'll just separate these stripes out. So it's red, white, red, white, red, white, red. This one will be white, so it goes away. Red, white. This one will be white. It goes away. Red, white. So this one's white. It goes away. So you always start on a red, end on a red. These have the blue unions. So we've got to remember red, 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 and red. Now, to separate these, just get yourself some single edge razor blades. You take your single edge razor blade and a hammer and you line it up on that line you drew. Hammer it into it. And that will keep your stain from bleeding over, and then we can stain the blue and the red all at the same time. So we're going to separate out all the ones that need to be white, and we'll stain the red first. So we'll start with the red. This will be a white one. That'll be a white one. And that'll be a white one. So now all of these need to be red. So we're gonna, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 reds, 6 whites, right? Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yep, 7 reds, 6 whites. We need a beer. And holy shit, this is the last beer I have in my shop. I'm gonna have to go up to the house. That is not good. All right, stain. We need to find my barn red. All right, we're going to start with Varathane's Premium Wood Fast Dry, whatever. It is barn red color. That's the color that I found seems to look the best as far as red goes. All right, all the stains on there, so now we can just gently, I'm going to remove one of these gloves so I can grab hold of the boards without contaminating them. Pull out all of our razor blades. Got red on me. All right, so we got to just let the stain set up overnight. Then we can flip it over. We'll put some glue on. We'll put our strips on. Then it's time for grinding out stars. All right, so the stains had time to dry. So now we're going to flip this thing over, and then we're going to glue it and nail it together. Shit. All right, so the first thing we want to do, we want to find center. That's going to be 15. And then we want to drop off 8 inches off of center. And what we're going to do We're doing that. Now we're 16 on center. That's where these guys will go. And then there will be one in the center. And what that'll do, that'll allow you to put your hangers right there, and then they can go into the studs in the wall, because this is made out of wood, so it is going to be relatively heavy. It's not bad, but not in comparison to the 3D flag. But even still, you wouldn't want to just put this into direct drywall. But before we go ahead and do that, we're going to put a light film of glue on all of these. So we'll separate these guys out. Now we don't want the glue getting out onto here, so you just get some glue on your fingers, and we're just going to do a light film on this bottom edge. Got some dust on it. Alright, that's where we're at so far. Now all we got to do, lay out our star pattern, grind it out, put polyurethane on, put the hangers on, and this flag is done. I said, right now I think I've got a grand total of 45 minutes in, maybe an hour. And you can crank one of these flags out, if you don't include drying time, in probably an hour and a half, 2 hours. These are super simple to freaking make. I mean, probably the longest process, you're going to have a half an hour in on grinding out the stars. That's going to take the longest. But that's all there is to making one of these things. I already showed you how to lay out the stars, how to grind them out on the 3D flag. I probably don't need to show you how to do it again. I mean, it's literally you tape the friggin' stencil down on here, trace them out, and then you take a Dremel and you just trace the lines and grind them out. And it's like, get a comfortable position, follow the lines with a little Dremel grinding ball. Here, I'll show you what I use. And you probably can't, you won't be able to see it because my camera doesn't do close-ups real well. But I don't know, it's just a little tiny diamond-coated tip. Goes in any rotary tool. Lay out your star pattern on there. Once you've got your star pattern, get into a comfortable position. Trace a line, trace a line, trace a line, trace a line. Do all 50 stars in one direction. Once you've got that first line, either turn your body or turn the flag. Trace the next line over and over and over and over again until you have the star pattern. Once you've got the star pattern down, then you just take this thing, go through, and grind out all the freaking material that's in the center of them. Once you've got that done, you're done. Throw some polyurethane on there, the hangers, the flag is good to go. These are extremely cheap. You can make them out of a 1x10. A 1x10 I think costs $6.50. You buy the stain and the polyurethane, you can make freaking probably several hundred flags on, one container of friggin' stain and one container of polyurethane. I guess 2 containers of stain because you get 2 different colors. I guess that's whatever. This is just an sheet of MDF that I had laying around that I made a quick friggin' dirty assembly jig. Wicked easy to make these things. All right, guys. See you next time. Don't forget to subscribe, turn on notifications, smash that like button. Later.